So I asked Brad Edwards if he watched the game between Ole Miss and A&M Saturday night, and he didn't. But he said he was checking his phone because I said, hey, what about Shea Patterson's performance? 23 points in the fourth quarter. Shea looked like a junior All-American in the fourth quarter who had been playing for a long time. He was doing it all from the pocket and extending plays, and he rallied the team along with the defensive line. But he rallied the team to a victory that Breeze definitely needed. And Ole Miss now is rejuvenated. The Ole Miss fan base is rejuvenated. They've got a star. They knew he was going to be good, but we didn't have any game film. Didn't have any live on the road, 100,000 people plus, A&M. And just accuracy, completing passes left and right. Playmaker, too, with his legs. But I asked Brad about it. This is Brad discussing how he didn't watch the game, but kind of discussing the Ole Miss football program and fans.
I did not. I was on the sideline for the Washington USC game, and I kept checking my phone for the Louisville score and for the Michigan score. And in the process of doing that, I did notice that A&M was up, 21-6, and then I saw Ole Miss had come back and was in field goal range to win the game, and then I got completely distracted by what was going on with Michigan and later saw that Ole Miss won. I saw Patterson's final stats, so he must have been really good, and I look forward to hearing all my Ole Miss friends spend the next 8 months talking about how they're going to win the West again next year for the fifth straight year they're going to win the West, whatever it is.
It's every year. Well, it's been every year for the past, 2-3 years.
As an Ole Miss fan, how do you feel about that? 601-707-3750. Twitter handle @BowBounds. As an Ole Miss fan, how do you feel about that comment? That's Brad Edwards. He's a national college football analyst with ESPN. If I say that, the world's coming to an end.
No, of course. Would have been better had he said Ole Miss is the best 5-loss team in the nation.
Well, they are. And don't you even...
I don't question that.
Question it. It's 5-5. They're 5-5. And they are the best 5-loss team in the country. And they're the best 5-win team in the country. That's already been... Hey, that's done. Poll question, Drew. And I'd like to hear from an Ole Miss fan, 601-707-3750, who's not tweeting Brad Edwards right now. Twitter handle @BowBounds, brought to you by favorites.com. New auto rates, same great service. What do the poll results look like?
57% believe that the Big Ten, that the SEC is not clear-cut better than the Big Ten.
All right.
Are they?
The best team in the SEC is better than the best team in the Big Ten. We feel like that right now, that Bama's better than Ohio State. All right.
We know that.
Second best team in the Big Ten is coming off a loss to Iowa, which is not a top 40 recruiter. And they had not really played anybody year to date.
Colorado and Penn State, both top 10 teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's like you telling me that Ole Miss and Mississippi State just beat A&M.
But A&M fell from 8 to 25.
Right, but from 4 to 8 the week before.
Right.
Losing to they were. This tells me either these guys aren't watching or something. But
why did they fall 17 spots?
Mississippi State dominated A&M. Ole Miss had to have a heroic effort from their off. I mean, they were smoking A&M, dominating. Nick Fitzgerald ran for 182 yards. He's a quarterback. Behind an offensive line that we have all agreed and we've established is a G5 Conference USA Sun Belt type offensive line. None of those guys could start at Ole Miss. Not one of those guys could start at Ole Miss. Nick Fitzgerald ran for 182. Aries Williams went for 100. I think. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 140. Yeah, somewhere around 100.
Hold on. That score should have been 52-28 or whatever.
I mean, he had multiple turnovers in the end zone.
You threw 2 picks in the end zone, and then you missed a field goal or
Yeah.
something else and did something else, whatever. Hey, did you see this on ProFootballFocus.com? Speaking of the SEC and whether or not it's a clear cut, the number one conference in college football against the Big Ten and the ACC the ACC has Clemson and Florida State, and then, whoa, this Ole Miss helmet's getting jumpy this morning. Brad Edwards ruffled the feathers here. Shea Bebe. Pro Football Focus. Look at the draft picks. First mock draft, number 1, Jonathan Allen to the Cleveland Browns from Alabama. Number 2, Myles Garrett from Texas A&M. Number 3, Chicago Bears, Deshaun Watson. Number 4, Derek Barnett, Tennessee.
We're going to assume the
Balls.
majority of those people come from the SEC.
Yeah, number 6 is Pro Football Focus. Mock draft projection, number 6, Carl Lawson, Auburn. And number 9, to the Tennessee Titans, Jalen Tabor, Florida.
So around 5 in the first top 10 picks, yeah. SEC flavor.
What does that tell us?
But as a collective team in a conference, you can't let players just decide that. As a conference, I mean, I understand the argument for the Big Ten.
Okay. Second best team in the Big Ten is Michigan. Second best team in the SEC is LSU. Neutral field.
I don't know. I mean, that Michigan would probably be favored. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would.
They would be favored.
Vegas had LSU ranked number 8.
Without their quarterback, I don't know.
I think they'd be favored. With their quarterback, they'd be favored.
Ooh, by what, 2?
I mean, it'd be close, but I mean, 2.
Yeah, so
4.
I don't know if they'd be favored by 4. Vegas ranked them number 8 in the country. See, Vegas doesn't care how many games you lost. They're looking strictly at how talented you are and so on. Neutral field if they met in Nashville.
Danny Etling
LSU, Michigan.
Etling couldn't win in the Big Ten in the beginning. What changes now?
Oh, he's got 4 and 5 star players around him. At Purdue, he had 2 and 3 star players around him.
That's true.
Okay, that's 2. Michigan and LSU. Number 3 team in the SEC.
Auburn.
And that's a tough one, right? Because they're coming off
ugly,
getting embarrassed. What'd they throw for 27 yards against Georgia?
Yes.
I think I could throw for 27 yards against Georgia.
Couldn't
I just throw it up?
Lob it up there.
I think so.
Okay. Auburn is number 3. Third best team in
Penn State. Wisconsin.
Wisconsin would beat Auburn.
Neutral field. I'm not giving. Who would be favored? Auburn? I bet Vegas would have. Look up the numbers.
Why would Auburn be favored?
Because Vegas is going to look at what Auburn did for the 5 games going into Georgia and the fact that they're so physical. With Bubba Petway? You really think that's not going to be a 13-10 game either way?
Auburn
17-10, 17-13, 17-14 either way?
I think it'd be pretty close to the LSU-Wisconsin game. I mean, they beat a good LSU team. They beat a not good
Did you
Mississippi
watch the
State
way
team.
that game ended?
I'm a decent at best Ole Miss team. They're not even good. They're not good. I mean, State's not a good ball club.
No, they're not.
That's not a
recognize
win you hang your hat on. Arkansas, I mean, yeah, I get it. It was 56-3, but Arkansas is not a win you go out there and hang your hat on. And why? And Ole Miss certainly isn't this year. They got 5 losses.
Ole Miss's best win is A&M at A&M. Mississippi State's is A&M at home.
And A&M's
Auburn's
showing to be – what are they showing to be?
Well,
Not a good team.
the wheels have totally fallen off, have come off the bus.
So, I mean, it's hard for me.
Another November collapse in College Station.
Is Arkansas really – I mean, is Auburn really that good? You beat a bad state team. You beat a bad Ole Miss team. You beat.
I don't think Ole Miss is bad. I think Ole Miss is weird, and I've really struggled to describe what's happened to them. I think they've got a pretty darn good team. They just they screwed up the Arkansas game, as Drew said.
You wouldn't know it. I mean, they don't give me a reason to say they're a good team. I mean,
They should have beat Auburn at home.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They should have won multiple games because we say they should have won, and they should have.
But, okay. Drew?
You get down to number 4 on this list. You're comparing Penn State versus Tennessee, Florida.
I don't know why Penn State couldn't win a ball game.
On a neutral field, that's what, even?
Pretty even.
Oh, Penn State would whip either one of those teams.
I'm agreeing with him. I've only watched them play twice.
I don't think
Watched them
Penn
play
State
Maryland.
could move the ball like y'all think they could against Florida's defense. I totally disagree, and I'd love to see what Vegas had to say about Florida's D against Penn State's O.
I mean, Arkansas did.
They did, no doubt.
They play. I mean, Penn State runs the ball. They run the ball well, and yeah, I mean, if they're so you're telling me
This might be a rough year for Alabama aside. This might be a rough year in like the Capital One Bowl, the Outback Bowl.
Oh, the bowl games.
The Gator Bowl.
I mean,
for the
last
SEC.
year was bad. This year, I don't know what we do with that. Darn it.
The Big Ten SEC games might be ugly for the SEC.
it will be.
Bielema needs to do something cool. We'll come back with Jeff Duncan. NOLA.com. Jeff Duncan on Dak Prescott, on the Saints, and the NFC. Jeff Duncan, one of the best in the business. NOLA.com, Saints Insider. Straight ahead on the New Belgium. All right, it's been too long. Saints, NFL Insider, all things New Orleans. He is Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com. On the Out of Bounds Show and ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Jeff, good morning. Welcome in.
Good morning, Bo. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm doing better than Saints fans. I don't know how you lose 2 games the way they have this year. The way they have. But was that it? Was that the opportunity to kind of turn it and maybe win enough games, maybe go 9-7 and find a playoff berth? And it's just going to be too difficult I know the Panthers are not that good, but it'll still be too difficult down the stretch maybe to find to get to 9 wins.
Well, I think they may look back, and look at that game as one that slipped away. But the good thing they've got going for them, if there is any hope, is that Atlanta has not taken advantage of the opportunity to run away with the division. And, they're only a game and a half back, and Atlanta has a history of kind of having these fast starts and coming back to the pack. So I think they still feel like with 4-5, if they can win tomorrow night in Charlotte, that they'll put the pressure on Atlanta. But I do think this, Bo, I think their best shot at making the playoffs is going to be winning the division, not trying to get a wild card. I don't think 9-7 is going to get a wild card.
What do you make of Cam Newton? And it's like he's, we know how difficult, we think we know how difficult it is to play the quarterback position in the NFL. And Drew Brees and guys like that don't get caught up into what Cam's getting caught up. Is there some merit to what he's going through as far as getting hit? And then how do you see him now that he's a veteran and he's got all this static and noise going on when they need to be focused on winning games, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I think it's a legitimate question. First of all, I do think there's a lot of merit to, the weak hits and some of the things that he has to endure as a 6'5" quarterback. I don't know why he hasn't earned that right. I do think there's some comparisons that are apt about Shaquille O'Neal, just his physical presence being bigger than everybody else. But that said, I mean, you've got to move past it and become a leader. I mean, one of the things I think that'll be interesting this week, and it involves Cam Newton, is the comparison between him and Drew Brees. Who is going to get their team ready? Who's going to get away from the noise and the distraction and the dejection from last week? Because both of them lost very difficult games, heartbreaking games that they feel like they should have won. Who's going to rally their team and have them ready to play on Thursday night? And I think everybody's going to see early on in this game on Thursday night exactly where the Carolina Panthers are, where their heads are, and where the New Orleans Saints are. I think we're going to find out early how this game's going to go.
Jeff Duncan, Saints Insider on the Out of Bounds Show in the New Belgium Fat Tower Hotline, talking Saints and Panthers. I drew the parallel with LeBron James and Cam Newton, Jeff, in that, You know, if LeBron, Jordan lived on the free throw line if you breathed on him because, he was 6'5", 6'6", 2 whatever. But LeBron, you have to mug him at 260 for him to get on the line. I mean, I thought he could have shot another 30 free throws in the finals against Golden State last year. And I look at that same way as Cam because Cam's 6'6", 250-ish, that the refs look at the two the same way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I mean, I definitely believe that at his physical size that he's taken more punishment and probably can endure it because he is bigger than most average NFL quarterbacks. And I don't think it's fair. I think he's got a legitimate beef. But the downside of that is he does hold the ball longer than just about any quarterback in the league. I mean, fans, your listeners, watch tomorrow night. I mean, he holds the ball extraordinarily long for an NFL quarterback, and I think he does it because he knows he can take those hits, and most other quarterbacks can't. And so he does bring some of it on himself because he's not Drew Brees or Matt Ryan getting that ball out in 2.2 seconds to avoid the hits. And it's just going to happen when you hold the ball longer than 2.4 seconds in the NFL.
Saints have a chance to get back in the win column tomorrow night against a Panthers team that has struggled this year. But we all know what Ron Rivera can come up with sometimes on the defensive side of the football. So Breeze and the Saints tomorrow night at the Panthers. Jeff Duncan joins us, NOLA.com. And after a heartbreaking loss to the Broncos, boy, was that a clutch drive or what? Jeff, by Drew Brees and by Sean Payton. And they ran the ball just enough. And then throwing that ball down the seam to Brandon Cooks in what looked like triple coverage to me, it was a great throw and a great catch by the Saints. What did you see?
Oh, yeah, I actually tweeted out right before that drive that this was going to be one of those classic Drew Brees 2-minute drives. And if you're a Saints fan, you've seen it so many times before. He's playing remarkably well right now, and I think he's got tremendous confidence in his three receivers, Mike Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and Willie Snead. I think it's probably the best receiver core just in terms of receivers that he's had there, and they're all 24 or younger. So you've got to have a lot of, encouragement if you're a Saints fan that this offense is going to be good for a number of years going forward. Even though Breeze is 37, he's going to turn 38 in January. He's not showing any signs of slowing down. And look, that's what you get paid to do, what he did in that drive. And I think, it was just a remarkable turn of events there on the extra point.
Saints Panthers tomorrow night. They needed. I thought Jeff made a great point. The Falcons haven't run away with the division, and so there's a lot to play for here. And this thing could go all the way down to, I think, where Jeff was going, in that they play January 1st. Saints play at the Falcons. So who knows what they'll be playing for the 16th game of the season. Boy, would that be nuts with the two heartbreaking losses that the Saints have had if they were actually playing for the division title against the Falcons on January 1. What grade would you give the defense? We knew all the question marks. They've missed too much. It's been kind of a revolving door there at the defensive coordinator position. What grade would you give the Saints defense to date, Jeff?
Well, for the season, I think you'd have to give them a D. I don't know how you could give them anything above a D. I mean, they're ranked, I think, 29th in the NFL. And they just started to sort of put pressure on the quarterback. That's a really positive sign. The 6 sacks that they were able to produce by 6 different players, Bo. I mean, that's very, very unique. And I think what we're seeing Dennis Allen, now that he has Delvin Breaux back at corner, his lockdown corner, and Sheldon Rankins at defensive tackle, he's got more confidence to come after the opposing quarterback and feel like his back end is going to hold up in single coverage. He didn't have that confidence before playing so many young players because of the attrition. And I think it's encouraging what they did. Now, this was a bad Denver offensive line. Everybody saw that Super Bowl against Carolina. I mean, they really struggled in that game to block. I think we'll see a little bit better test for them Thursday night because Carolina's offensive line has come back. They're well again, and I think it'll be a good test because they really haven't played any good. I don't want to take anything away from them, but they played a lot of bad offenses here the last few weeks. Even Seattle, who was banged up, and Russell Wilson was gimpy in that game. They really haven't played a lot of the top 10 offenses right now.
That's a good point. Jeff Duncan, Saints Insider, NOLA.com. Saints Panthers tomorrow night in Charlotte. And they're still playing for a lot, as Jeff said. They can, if the Falcons stumble, this thing could get really tight. And Saints-Falcons played the last game of the season. As somebody who has watched a lot of NFC football the last however many years, and you don't have a dog in the hunt, how would you describe what's happened in Dallas with the Cowboys, Prescott, Elliott, and the offensive line and going 8-1?
Well, I'm stunned, to be honest with you. Look, I saw Dak play in college and had in remarkable respect, but the leap to the NFL I thought was just going to be very difficult for him, the transition. But he's been aided by a tremendous offensive line and obviously a great young running back in Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that, everybody here in New Orleans saw in the Sugar Bowl a couple of years run all over Alabama. So but you have to give Dak all the credit. I mean, he's handled the transition. He's not made mistakes, rookie mistakes that normally quarterbacks make. He's kept them in games. And I think right now you have to say them and the Seattle Seahawks are probably the favorites in the NFC, and I don't think anybody would have thought that 6 months ago.
How difficult is it to find the third best team in the NFC, Jeff?
Well, I think it's wide open. I mean, unless you believe Atlanta is that team, and I don't think anybody believes it's Atlanta. I don't know. Is somebody out of the NFC East after you get past Dallas?
I keep looking at the Giants thinking maybe, but then again, because you just never know with what they'll do. I guess because their history with Eli, I know Coughlin's gone, but their history with Eli is that they could drop a 9-7 on you and then run through the playoffs. But that doesn't mean that it could happen this year.
Well, there's 16 teams, Bo, in the NFL that have 4 or 5 wins. So, I mean, half the league is the same. The Saints are in that boat. Everybody's about the same, and that's why these games, like we saw on Sunday, they're coin toss games. They come down to the end, and it's impossible to predict how it's going to play out. That's one of the reasons why the NFL product is so remarkable. I know ratings are down, but if you watch those games on Sunday, from the Cowboys-Steelers, that incredible ending, the Seattle-New England game on Sunday night, the Saints game, I mean, it's just incredible theater for a viewer, and it's one of the strengths of the league because you just don't know what's going to happen week to week on Sundays. What
did you make? I don't know if you saw this play on Sunday, but when Dak avoided the rush, sidestepped it, then stepped up and hit Dez in stride for the touchdown.
That reminded me of a Drew Brees play, and I know the play you're talking about. It's that peripheral vision, that instinctive feel, to feel the rush, and to make that quick little movement to avoid it and still keep his eyes downfield. I didn't see a lot of that at Mississippi State. I'm seeing a totally different quarterback than I saw at Mississippi State for the most part, and I think it's been remarkable, and I can understand why Dallas is sticking with Dak Prescott. I mean, you've got to ride this kid. And to get him in the mid-round of a draft, they're going to have him now on a rookie contract for 4 years. For the NFL and the way you pay quarterbacks, it's going to be very similar to the way Seattle was able to ride Russell Wilson. It allows you to build the roster around him. I mean, Dallas is going to be a force for a while now.
Wow. Jeff Duncan, Saints Insider, on the Out of Bounds Show to the Atlanta Falcons. Jeff, thanks so much. We'll have to do this again sooner than later. We appreciate your time.
Anytime, Bo. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Thanks, bud. Jeff Duncan, he's super, very, very talented columnist.